Welcome everyone to the Tuesday edition of our Packers News live chat alongside Ryan Wood. I am Olivia Reiner. The Packers hit the practice field for the first day of mandatory minicamp today. We'll let you know who was there, who wasn't in just a moment. However, before we get into that, as always, you know the drill by now. You can be a part of our conversation. If you're over on Facebook, Periscope, or YouTube, leave us a question down in the chat. Ryan and I always love to hear from you. We'll get to some of your thoughts toward the end of our conversation today. It should come as no surprise that quarterback Aaron Rodgers was not present for the first day of mandatory minicamp. However, we don't know if he has been fined for missing minicamp today. Rodgers can be fined up to $93,000 for missing all 3 days of mandatory minicamp. If he only misses today, in theory, he would only be fined $15,000. However, we don't know if the Packers have decided to waive those fines or not. Regardless, because Rodgers wasn't here, that meant quarterback Jordan Love got to take more reps in his place. How did Love look in his first day of mandatory minicamp?
He was pretty erratic today. This was really the first day that we got to see him in an open session throw downfield. He's been hitting his checkdowns at a high volume early in OTAs, and that's not a bad thing because that's part of the offense. It's what Aaron Rodgers did last year. You're going into year two in the playbook. He hit a lot of checkdowns last year. We saw him during the season hit checkdowns, take what the defense gave him. This was the first day we really saw Jordan Love throw the ball down the field, and it didn't look great. Now, the caveat, right? It's June. They're in shorts. It's not supposed to look great in June, unless you are literally Aaron Rodgers and it looks great, whatever. It's not supposed to, right? So don't freak out. But in the first 2-minute drill that we saw Jordan Love take, he overthrew Robert Tonyan in the right flat. He overthrew Malik Taylor down the right sideline on fourth down, stopped the drive. Both guys were open. Both passes were just missed. So it's clear that Jordan Love's letting it rip more than he did last year. Last year, you didn't see a lot of air mails because he didn't really let it rip much. He's letting it rip, but a little too much at times.
This is the first time that Jordan Love has really had command of the offense because he was standing in Aaron Rodgers' shadow all throughout last season. Now that we're in the third week of the offseason program, it is still very early. Jordan Love still has a ways to go. What are his teammates looking for in him to show that he has grown from last year?
Olivia, you had maybe the best question of the day, right? And it was to Devante Adams. It was so just honest. And it was very similar to what Luke Getsy said when I asked the same question last week when we talked offensive assistants. But what have you seen? That's the question he asked him. And Devante Adams like, I have no idea because he's seen an hour and a half. He's seen one practice. Like, this is a quarterback that did not have preseason. He did not have his top receivers this offseason until today. For all we know, he's never thrown to Devante Adams. Like, he wasn't getting 1 reps last year when 17 was on the field. That was 12, right? So this is new. This is the reality for this Packers team. They very well might enter the season with 10 behind center, and that's the guy that they need to go win games. He's never thrown to the top receiver. So, it goes to another question that Matt LaFleur was asked today. Not the first time he's been asked this offseason, but he was asked, when is the deadline that you need to know to be able to craft your offense for Jordan Love instead of Aaron Rodgers? And, of course, Matt LaFleur was not going there. I mean, he's Packers in general are being very flexible with the timeline for Aaron Rodgers' return. But it's got to be something that behind the scenes they're absolutely considering, because at some point, they've got to be considering it now. They might need to go in to the season with Jordan Love needing to win games for them, and it's kind of a hot mess. And it is hot, by the way. It's 5th straight day of 90 degrees. It was right in the middle of a heat wave here in Green Bay, so it's a hot one.
Hope you're staying cool, Ryan.
I'm not at all. You can't tell. Like, my house has no central cooling system. There is no AC in my house. So if I look red and translucent, you know why. I'm on the hot seat, literally.
Stay cool, keep a glass of water nearby, and we'll get through this live stream without any issues. So everyone in the Packers front office the Packers coaching staff, they're all crossing their fingers and toes that Aaron Rodgers shows up at some point ahead of the 2021 season and decides to play for the Packers. But until then, President/CEO Mark Murphy, he writes a monthly column for Packers.com. And this past weekend, he wrote about the fact that their dilemma, the front office's dilemma with Aaron Rodgers, has divided the Packers fan base. Some members of the fan base are taking Aaron Rodgers' side. Some members of the fan base are taking the Packers' side. Other members of the fan base are just over it at this point and want to see it all come to an end. That being said, Ryan, how are the Packers players in the locker room responding to the conflict that is consuming the outside world?
Players taking the players' side. Shocker, I know. No, like the funniest thing that was considered, the funniest question when this whole thing started was, how will he get back to the locker room? Will that, be divisive in the locker? No, it's not divisive at all. The players are going to take the players back. Like Robert Tunyon said, David Bakhtiari said, they missed their friend. Like Devante Adams said today, he's praying that Aaron Rodgers returns. Now, and I love the way that David Bakhtiari, who has become maybe the most elegant speaker and communicator on this team, especially publicly, the way he put it, which is, as a friend, he's kind of like, do you and be happy. I mean, we all got friends, right? You want your friends to be happy. But as a teammate, he's kind of like, he's been on this team for the 4 NFC Championship game losses the past 7 years. He knows Aaron Rodgers gives them the best chance to win a Super Bowl. He said it'd be idiocy not to want Aaron Rodgers back. I mean, pure idiocy. Of course they want Aaron Rodgers back. So, yeah, Aaron Rodgers has no issue returning to that locker room whenever he so chooses. And like Devante Adams said, they will welcome him back with open arms if and when that happens.
Aaron Rodgers may not have been at mandatory minicamp today. However, lots of Packers wide receivers were. 5 veteran Packers receivers who were not present at the previous OTAs that the Packers held over the last couple of weeks were present today at minicamp. That includes Devante Adams, Marquez Valdes-Scantling, Equanimeous St. Brown, Allen Lazard, and Devin Funchess. Speaking of Devin Funchess, Funchess has been signed with the Packers since April 2nd of last year. He has not set a foot on a Packers field, a Green Bay field of any kind, whether it's a practice field or Lambeau Field, because he opted out of the 2020 season due to COVID-19 concerns. Today, he was present for the very first time. What are the Packers expecting to see from him, not only in training camp, but potentially heading into the 2021 season?
Well, Devante Adams said today, they didn't meet until Sunday night at the airport. They both got in at the same time. And they had maybe 6 or 7 FaceTimes earlier this offseason. And he said, he expects big things from Devin Funchess. He likes the potential of what he brings to the offense. Now, obviously, Devante Adams can't really know because he hasn't seen Devin Funchess in the office, but he feels like he knows Devin Funchess better than he actually does because they've had this virtual communication. And he also said that Devin Funchess is a big fan of Devante Adams. Let's be real. When someone likes you, kind of ingratiate yourself to that person, right? So, Devin Funchess, naturally, big fan of Devante Adams. He looked good today. I mean, they're in shorts. You don't know. They're not doing competitive periods, really. They did a 2-minute drill in shorts. It's not really competitive. So any grand kind of opinions, they can postpone that until they get the pads on. But he's a guy that is going to rotate in. He's going to be a part of this offense, or at least have a chance to be.
Speaking of Devante Adams, he is in line for a massive, massive contract extension. He's going into a contract year, and he made it very clear today that he has no intentions of holding out of training camp. He plans on showing up and participating. That being said, Ryan, when can Packers fans expect to see Devante Adams receive the contract extension that he so very well deserves?
It's kind of a surprise that it hasn't happened already, isn't it? Now, Devante Adams was asked point blank today, will you show up to training camp if you do not have an extension? And he said yes. He said, I am about to forfeit that money as, $50,000 a day fine. That's over 42 days of training camp. That's over $2 million in fine. He ain't going to give up that money. So he gave up the $500,000 workout bonus. A little different when you talk about $2 million. But yes, you would think, look, the Packers extended Kenny Clark last season right in the middle of training camp. Later in the year, middle of the season, they extended David Bakhtiari. So the reality is the training camp is not a hard deadline. If the Packers come to Devante Adams with a deal that, whatever, $25-ish million a year or whatever he's going to get, it's going to be at the top of the receiver market. He's going to sign it. He's not going to get fined for missing camp because he's not about giving up his money. He's not going to not sign a deal like that and give up that money just because it didn't happen before July 27th. So it could happen at any point. And the big news is that Devante Adams is not going to try to hold out from training camp.
When do you think Devante Adams is going to receive his contract extension, Packers fans? Let us know down in the comments right now. Speaking of your comments, let's take a look at some of them. It's good to see so many familiar faces in the chat right now. Hello to all of you. Let's start with the question here from Josh. Josh says, this is, again, like the golden question that we will continue to be asked and attempt to answer every single week. Josh wants to know, what will it take to get Aaron Rodgers to return to Green Bay? Does Rodgers need a new contract, a new general manager? What does he need, Ryan? And what is realistic for the Packers to offer him?
Well, if you hear Devante Adams say it, it's an answer to prayer, right? That's what it's going to take. A change of mind. That's what it really is. More than any one thing, they're not firing Ryan Gutekunst. Not happening. Nor should it, frankly. They're not going to trade Jordan Love. Nor should they. Those two things are not going to happen. Could there be a contract renegotiation, more money? Yeah, absolutely. The Packers have tried that. So that's obviously a possibility. But if it was just that, he'd be here because the Packers have tried that. So ultimately, the bottom line, it's going to take a change of mind. He is going to have to change his mind that he will return. And if he does that, he'll be here. If he doesn't, he won't.
Thank you, Josh, for your question. It will be continued to be a question that we will mull over in the coming weeks. Let's go over to Mike on Facebook. Mike asks, who would Devin Funchess knock down in the wide receivers pecking order? Would it be Equanimeous St. Brown? If you think about the receivers that are most likely to make the team, Ryan, Devante Adams, Marquez Valdes-Scantling, Allen Lazard would more or less be a lock. Devin Funchess, Equanimeous St. Brown, maybe fighting for playing time. Amari Rodgers is obviously a strong contender as the Packers' third-round draft pick this year. So how does the battle in the wide receivers room appear to be playing out, especially as we head into training camp?
I imagine when I write out my 53-man roster projection at the start of camp, I'll probably have the Packers keeping 6 receivers, the 6 that you mentioned. Where Devin Funchess is in with that, I don't think there's any solid positions behind Devante Adams. I mean, I think that they enter camp with MVS and now Lazard as their 2 and 3, but that's not to say that Devin Funchess can't climb that depth chart. I think he absolutely can, or maybe he settles in at 4. Maybe Equanimeous St. Brown really has a breakout year, and Devin Funchess falls to the 5 or 6. So, we don't know where Amari Rodgers. That's almost a better question: is where Amari Rodgers is going to fit in. I mean, at least we see with him, Devin Funchess has a very similar body type as MVS, Allen Lazard, EQ, big, tall, rangy receiver. Amari Rodgers is the guy. He's the outlier in terms of body type at that position. We see where his role is. As far as 1, 2, 3, 4, we don't know on the depth chart behind Devante Adams where he's going to fall, but we know what the role is. He's the Tyler Ervin guy. He's the guy that's going to be in the slot, the flex receiver, do the jet motions and all those things. How much of that they'll have in the offense depends on how much Amari Rodgers develops as a rookie. But as far as Devin Funchess, I think anywhere feasibly from 2 to 6, it's going to. I think those are going to be open jobs.
You mentioned Amari Rodgers. Let's take a question from John over on YouTube. John says, do you think that the Packers are faster and better with this draft? What have we seen so far? It's a little early to tell, obviously. However, John would like an assessment of some of the draft picks early on, not just based on their performance, because it is early and it's tough to tell how players are going to perform in pads, full contact, when they're just playing in shorts right now. However, based on where they are repping with the 1s, with the 2s, which players of the draft picks have the Packers clearly put a lot of stock and hold to a high regard early on?
Well, there's no question, John, that they're faster. My goodness, they can't possibly not be faster. Meet Eric Stokes. And really, if you want to learn about that and the speed that he brings and his relationship with that speed, which is to me the most fascinating part. Like a guy that runs a 4.25 40, a guy that runs a 10.39 100 is like, yeah, I hate using my speed. I just don't. That like what? If I ran 10.39, I'd be like, yeah, I'm faster than you. Deal with it. Like I would flaunt that. I don't, by the way. That's not even. I run like a 15-second 100. But yeah, Eric Stokes brings world-class speed. He's one of the fastest players in NFL history. As far as his times on the field, different thing on the field. His times, how quick are his feet? How much speed does he have? He's got. So yeah, go to PackersNews.com, read that story because it's an interesting way that he kind of approaches his speed. But yeah, you've got that. The center, the offensive lineman, they're not going to add speed, but they could fill some starting jobs. Like Josh Myers is your starting center right now. Royce Newman, he could make a bid. He could make a bid by the end of training camp. We'll see how he develops as a rookie in his first camp. And then Amari Rodgers, yeah, he's a guy that should play. And not only that, but all those guys, like, Eric Stokes, he's lined up as the wide guy on field goal block. He's going to be a gunner. Pretty good position for those, get in that track stance and let him go, right? Amari Rodgers, return specialist. So these guys help your special teams too, which, let's face it, that's an area that it's not just enough to change another coordinator. They need to actually put some personnel there that can play in that third phase. I think that they were able to kind of do that in this draft.
I'll echo your sentiment, Ryan. If you're interested in learning a little bit more about Eric Stokes and his background, I highly recommend checking out Ryan's story on PackersNews.com. Let's take a question from Jason on Facebook. Jason wants to set, or I guess not even a question, maybe it is. Blake Bortles, a former number 3 overall pick. Why not? The Packers added on Blake Bortles to, I can't even say his name for some reason today.
Blake Bortles.
It's a little bit of a tongue twister for some reason. Blake Bortles to the quarterback's room. Now they've got technically 4 quarterbacks. Only 3 of them are showing up to camp in Jordan Love, Bortles, and Kurt Benkert. What can Bortles potentially provide to the Packers going into a very uncertain season?
Well, if they're lucky, he just might lead them to another AFC Championship game. He's done that before. Now it'd be a little hard, Green Bay and all, but that's what Matt LaFleur. First thing he said introducing Blake Bortles was, he's been to the AFC Championship. He's played winning football. He's not only is he a guy that he's a veteran that struggled obviously in Jacksonville, but he's in a new offense, a brand new offense, and he's not getting any 1 reps because those are all going to Jordan Love. Blake Bortles did hit Isaac Nauta, number 82 on your scorecards today, for a long 35-yard touchdown to end a 2-minute drill down the left sideline. Looked really good pass. Tight end got behind Kavion Ento down the left sideline, and then Bortles hit him in stride, just dropped it over his shoulder while stepping up in the pocket. Good play for him. But again, look, it's in shorts, and we'll see what happens in pass. Bottom line with Blake Bortles is you've got to learn the playbook and get that foundation first.
Thank you so much, Jason, for your question. Let's go over to Rick on YouTube. Rick says that they are not interested in the Aaron Rodgers drama. Instead, he's concerned about the middle of the Packers defense going into the start of the season. What should Packers fans expect from the inside linebackers group going into 2021?
Improvement. They, for the first time in a long time, they got some young guys there that are promising. Chris Barnes, he's going to be your top guy. Kamal Martin's a guy that showed flashes last year when healthy, and they've got questionable depth there. Ty Summers has played some. Oren Burks is back to inside linebacker. Both those guys are more special teamers. They're going to make the team. They're going to make the 53 because what they bring on special teams, those may be your 2 top special teamers. So they're making the 53. It's just what can they do defense. I think that really the hopes of that position hinge on Barnes. It hinges on Martin and their development from year 1 to year 2.
Thank you so much, Rick, for your question, and thank all of you for joining us. We really appreciate you contributing to this conversation. We will be back later in the week to continue to chat about minicamp. Rumor on the street is that we're going to hear from Jordan Love at some point this minicamp, so that should be very exciting.
Yeah.
I believe it's the first time we've heard from him since he was drafted.
Yes, it's been a minute.
It's been a little while. So looking forward to that. Thank you all again for joining us. For Ryan, I am Olivia. We will chat with you next time.